So, to start at the beginning, you both wrote and directed the film. And could you please speak about the inspiration for telling this story in film?
Yeah. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. And then I have to say that I've been founding a lot of cine club in my life, but never as successful as this one. So congratulations. Yeah, the inspiration at the beginning. I mean, my grandfather was a private banker. You know, in Geneva, it's quite usual because we have a lot of the industry of private banking is quite huge. But I didn't know nothing about these skills, I have to say, and this world was completely unknown for me. And when he died, I discovered some notebook on his stuff. It was like a very simple notebook of his travel, a travel he made in 1980s in Argentina, actually during the dictatorship, exactly in the same period of the movie. So I discovered this notebook, I began to read. It was not interesting, actually, very mundane, only mundane. But then I discovered something, I realized something, that the notebook was talking a lot about what kind of events he was taking part, or what kind of travel he was doing, but never talking about the dictatorship. And as you know, the bankers are very well informed about what is going on the country they're visiting because of the business. It's part of the business. So I thought, it was disturbing for me, and I thought it was a good beginning for the movie, to make a fiction film, like an angle, a black. How do you say that in English? Something didn't have been told in the notebook. But I have to precise that there is no biographical aspect in the movie, except that my grandfather was a private banker, and I understand a little bit these codes, etc. But except that, there is no biographical shape in a way.
And that also you yourself spent time in Argentina, correct?
Yeah, completely correct. I've been living there for a long time. I've been traveling a lot, quite every day, every year, one time a year, and but not in this world. I was, as you say before, Julia, I was an interpreter. I was quite alone. And I was more making tango and this kind of stuff. And yeah. But then I begin to travel especially for that. About a suite, about a tie, and I begin to make calls and write emails and to try to enter in this world, like in undercover, pretending I was something different, making a different movie. Lying sometimes, I have to say. Yeah, I'm sorry. But it was a condition to get access to some very difficult world to get access, and I think it was for the good of the movie in a way. And then yeah, it was. But for 2 years and a half, I've been investigating. In Switzerland and in Argentina.
And we learn in the film that the word Azor means to be quiet, to be careful what you say. And at what point in the process of making the film did you decide that that was the best title, the most representative title for this film?
Yeah, this word was, it's a real dialect. It's a real, a lot of things in the movie are real, actually. And the dialect is I've been learning this dialect because I met some wife of a banker in Geneva. It was really the most interesting meeting I had during my investigation because she was very in a different perspective, in a different approach of the bank, much more sensitive, I have to say. But observing all the time, all the life, I have to say, like a sacrificed life in a way, but knowing a lot. And she's been sharing with me different things very precisely. This dialect was one of those things she was sharing with me. And when I heard Azor, first of all, I like the sound. You know, Azor is very impressive, very mysterious, a little bit dangerous in a way, as a sound. And then, of course, it represents quite well the culture of banking, which is a culture of silence, of being discreet, orality, but orality very smooth and hiding words. I mean, so I quite immediately understood that it was the title. Yeah.
Well, this is a great segue for the next question. For me personally, I think one of the most fascinating characters is Inez, Ivan's wife in the film. She's this constant, quiet presence, doesn't seem to say a lot, but I think has a lot to say and has a huge impact on his choices and ultimately his work. So could you speak more about the development of her character, especially as a driving force for the story?
Yeah, it was, I mean, it was very intuitive. Because of this meeting with this wife, because of my meeting with different bankers, I was not very involved emotionally with them. I was very interested in this wife because she was more fascinating. And then I talked before about my grandfather, but my grandmother was much more interesting, and she was the wife of a banker, and she was she was not like Inez because she was a painter. She was maybe a little bit more free in her mind. I don't know, free, maybe it's not a good word, but more fantasy at least. In any case, she was very interesting, and you know, when you begin to make a movie, you're trying to get some personal link with the movie, and this movie is difficult because the starting point, the energy is quite strong. It's about how to deal with this strange skill to be a banker and how to deal in a moral way, you know. And I was a lot of time I was very with a repulsive energy with this banker and with his way to think. I mean, it was complicated for me to build this character. And when I discovered that his wife was much more interesting for me, and I saw a little bit my grandmother there, it was a discovery very important for me. That's the personal part of the character. But then I think there is a very simple political reason. I mean, now we are in 2022, and we know that the story is just a way to represent also, and we need to represent. We are able to represent today things a little bit differently than before, and I think that's it's true for a lot of things, and it's true for the woman history also. And I think it's interesting to dig a little bit where the masculinity is very present and very important, as in the bank, because in the bank, before, as a woman, you cannot make nothing, you cannot be a banker as a woman. But even like that, women were quite strong, I mean, in the personal life. So, yeah, I think it's a question of representation, and it was important for me.
Right, well, I think it was very well done. And to Ivan now, and his sort of moral journey over the course of the film, from someone who is trying to follow the rules in a new situation to someone who ends up sort of pursuing his own success within the system as it exists, whether it sort of aligns with what he hopes for or not. And I think this is a very universal story, and even though this film takes place in a certain place at a certain time, it has a lot to say about our present day. So what do you think are some of the biggest lessons or commentaries on the present day from the film?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I don't know the audience. How do you know about bank about these things? About banking, I mean, for sure today is technically a little bit different because you have a lot more lawyers in a bank, and then they are just checking things, formally checking things. So technically, it takes a little bit of different shape and different look, you know. But essentially, it's quite. I mean, I can say it's not very different, and I say that because when I was making my investigation, just by chance, I met some banker who was like, how do you say that in English? Like somebody who left the bank, very angry with the bank. Sorry? Yeah. I mean, yeah, I met him, and I understand he was with a desire or a need to talk. And so I begin to invite him to the restaurant, and just to ask him about his experience. But very precisely, I'm not talking about something very general. I'm talking about very precise things of his travels for the banks, private banking. And he told me things very, very shocking, I have to say. Things they are in the movie. But we are talking about 5 years ago, not about 30 or 40 years ago. So, and we are not talking about Argentina, we are talking about Venezuela, for example, or Brazil. So this is not really different today in the bank. And then maybe in the human being, neither. I mean, I would like to be different, but maybe not. I think it's not my job to give any precise message to the audience. I think it's a little bit more. I mean, for me, to watch a movie is more an experience, very personal, but very physical. Today it was especially physical because of the rain, because of the, these kind of things. But not only for that, because you can create your own understanding of the movie. But I'm not here to define what kind of experience you have to live with.
So I just have one more question, and then I'm happy to open it up to the audience. So you're from the French-speaking region of Switzerland, the Romandie, and I'm hoping you can talk a bit about, more generally, about the filmmaking and the storytelling landscape in French-speaking Switzerland, and anything new or that you find particularly exciting in the very vibrant Swiss film industry today.
Yeah, Switzerland used to be a small industry of cinema. We have a tradition of documentary, quite important. In the fiction cinema, it's a little bit more complicated, much more because of a lack of tradition, I think. And we had some great filmmakers in the 70s, for example, Alain Tanner, this kind of people, very important. But then it was a little bit not empty, but different experiences. And I have to say that for two years now, we are observing a new generation of young filmmaker, and I think I'm old in this way because they are younger than me, or at least the same age. But a young movement, like a Swiss new wave of cinema, fiction way. I mean, which is very interesting and very fresh, because it's a generation with less complex to make fiction and more maybe more ambition to make things a little bit more complicated or difficult, or maybe more ambitious. And I think it's a very good moment for the Swiss cinema. But then, it's a very complicated market, because we have French part, we have German part, we have Italian part. And for a movie to have 3 different languages, it's a nightmare. I mean, for a distributor, it's impossible. So there is a lot to do with this complicated market. The cinema is difficult because the market is difficult, and that's it.
All right, any questions from the audience? Sorry, we have one here.
Hi, thank you for showing this film. I have less a question than a compliment to make. I love the pacing. Camera was fantastic of the filmmaking itself. The pacing, it just forced me into a certain... I was too fast sitting down and watching it, so I had to slow down watching the film. The long focusing on thoughts that people had in their mind, less than actually action. And it made me think of a completely different film, but Alain Resnais last year in Marienbad, this Nouvelle Vague, these strange angles, and especially when the boat went down the river, I thought gosh, it's like this hotel in Marienbad, it's like angles in the hallways, and it's transported me into that. Anyway, I compliment you. The story with the banking, I have to get a little bit into that, but the way you put it together with the pace, it made sense, especially the result. So I'm almost curious what happened to Ivan now. So anyhow.
Oh, no, thank you for the compliment. And yes, Alain Resnais and Marienbad it's an extraordinary film. I mean, it's a compliment. And I have to say that I don't know what is going to do Ivan now. I mean, for sure, not better thing than before. But I think the script is a thing very limited, with a huge limitation. I think something is happening during the movie, and then all the rest is up to your imagination, because your imagination is much more powerful than the script, in a way, So I think it's okay if you imagine it.
Other questions?
So thank you for the movie. It's a brilliant movie, and I'm the alumni president for the HASG in Switzerland, so the University of St. Gallen, where we actually produce all of those Swiss bankers. And so it's going to be phenomenal. So I'd love to learn more about the streaming, so we could actually get it over to them to actually watch this movie. So thank you so much for this. It'll be, I think, fascinating for them, the young bankers coming up, and also for the alumni. So thanks for that.
Well, thank you very much. I've been showing the movie in the Zurich Film Festival, and then in Geneva for the release of the movie, and then etc. etc. And a lot of bankers came to see the movie, and they were very happy all the time. Because they were saying, "Oh, at last, one movie is talking about us," Thank you.
Great.
Hi, 2 questions. You just said that you left many things to imagination one of the things that I started imagining was a little bit more about the relation between Ivan and Ines, another one between Ivan and Keys. Were you tempted to go a little bit further deep into those two relationships? And the other thing, why I really like the confession, I don't remember her name, that she makes to Ines, that she's bored at that party. Why did you put that there?
Yeah, about Keys and Yvon, for me, Keys was a secret motivation for the to make the movie, because I mean, I like Yvon, but as I mean, I like him because I'm used to know him now. You know, he's like an old friend, and I say, okay, I have pity for you, but it's okay, I can accept you. But I was not very fascinated by him. At the contrary, Keys was a very fascinating character, because first of all, he's not visible, so we can project everything. And as I said before, imagination is much more powerful for me than the show. So for me, Keys, it's everything you want, and everything you as a desire, as a fear also, because Keys is also a lot of fears. So I was very interested in creating this possibility, you know, like Keys is all what is possible. And it's true, when you have power, you have this kind of character. For example, Rasputin is a kind of Keys. I mean, you have a lot of examples. It's not necessary to mention it, but this kind of possibility of projecting all the desire, all the expectation on some people, and those people who are able to represent that, fascinating me, yes. So I think Yvon he cannot compare. He cannot make anything against him, because it's too powerful. I mean, Yvon cannot be like he is. And of course, the question of the comparison, it's important for me, because I realize now better than before. I mean, now today, because I'm writing another movie and different movies, and I realize how much important is for me the question of comparison and this competition, because I have a twin brother, you know, a real one. I mean. And we are very friends, but all my childhood we have been compared, like all the time, like a comparison about who is who, and I mean this kind of who is more funny or who is more. And we were all the time trying to make the balance, not to be better, not to be. I mean this kind of complexity, you know. So I think it's a very personal relationship I have with the question of yeah. And then the question of how this woman is talking like that about to be boring. That's the question. Yeah, because it's a very strange sentence I heard from a different wife of banker. She was very how do you say that? Very boring to be. Married with a banker, and she was attacking him all the time. And I was one day I went in a dinner, after dinner with them, and she said, "I'm so proud. You cannot imagine that. It's a punishment of God, you know." And I was very shocked. I was quite shocked, and I said, "Okay, it's a good sentence. I don't know what does it mean for her, but it's okay."
Maybe one more question. Yeah, one in the back.
So thank you so much for your time today, for being here with us on such a rainy evening. So my question is more about the choice of the cast for your film. So you know, Fabrizio has collaborated a lot with the Dardenne brothers, right? The famous Belgian filmmaking duo that has been creating these narrative and documentary films since I believe, 1970s. And I wonder if it was Fabrizio's experiences in the movies of the Dardenne brothers, or was it perhaps something else that made you realize that Fabrizio was indeed the perfect fit for the role of Ivan? So thank you.
Thank you for your very accurate question. Fabrizio is a very special kind of actor with a very special shape, because at this moment he was not very well known. He's not already very, but it's a little bit more well known now. But he's a very good actor, and as you said before, he worked a lot with the Dardenne brother. Dardenne brothers are Belgian directors, and we are working a lot with non-professional actors. A mixed casting with professional and non-professional. Azor is a mix also with professional and non-professional. I mean, all the French-speaking actors are professional, and all the Argentinian are not professional. Actually, they are coming from the high society or bank or lawyer. They are lawyers. They are owner of land. I mean, this kind of the same social condition that the movie is describing. And it was a challenge to work with these people. And we thought that it was very important to work with somebody used to deal with this humanities. I mean, these people very unique, because they just act one time and it's finished. But it's very intense, you know. So that's the first reason. And then the other reason is that it's very intuitive, but when you meet somebody, you understand something about him and how, what kind of relationship. For example, his eyes fascinating me, you know, because they are very huge and very, how do you say that? Something is afraid. Something is afraid with him. I mean, he's like unquiet. And I think it's interesting for this character to be, yes, and quiet, and not, I don't know if it's the good word, but yeah, afraid, something like that. But yeah, the casting is a long process, and I think I have to say that the most important reason was this ability, these skills to work with non-actors.
So I actually have one more question, and then I hope you'll take the opportunity as we're mingling at the end to ask any other questions of Andreas. But you had mentioned you're working on another film, so I'm curious what we'll see from you next.
I'm working on Diplomats. Sorry, I'm sorry.
You're pulling back the curtain on every...
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I hope, yeah. I'm working on that. It's of course, when you are writing is difficult to talk about it. It's better not to talk too much about it. But yeah, I'm interested in those professional culture, you know, which are very specific and with a lot of very specific skills, because bankers have a lot of specific skills and diplomats much more. So yeah, I'm interested in, I'm working on that.
Well, we'll be sure to keep an eye out for that one. So Andreas, thank you again. We have to wrap up now, but we'll hope you'll ask it of him later. So we want to thank you for coming all the way from Switzerland to be with us today.
Thank you very
much.
much.
And for sharing the film.
Yeah, thank you.
And
yeah, I will. I mean, I think the bar is open. I will be there if you have more questions. I will be there, and you can ask me.
And
directly.
I also want to encourage you, if you have not already subscribed to our newsletter, we have a QR code at the bar and a QR code as you exit. You can do so by scanning those QR codes. The bar will be open. We also have Swiss chocolate for you to enjoy. So thank you so much again for joining us.